Good morning, Morai v'Rabotai, Bruchim Abayim. We are continuing on Masechet Makkot, and we are on Daf Yud Chet, Amud Bet, 4 lines down from the top of the Amud. Ke'idach de Rabbi Eliezer. Today's Amud is being learned as a zchut for Refuah Shlema of Rachel Simcha Bad Nahid, that should have full recovery. Refuah Shlema, Amen. Also for the Refuah Shlema of Gavriel Haim ben Eliza, that should have full Refuah Shlema Be'ezrat Hashem, Amen. And for zchut for Eliza Bat Linda, for Yeshuot v'Nehamot Be'ezrat Hashem, Amen. This month's learnings of the community has been dedicated by the Kohen family, by Dayan family, by Shei families. It should be an ultimate zchut for all their families. Be'ezrat Hashem, Amen. Okay, so we started a very interesting ma'amar from Rava in Yud Chet, Amud Aleph, about 5 lines down from the top of the Amud, that a person that eats Korban Olah could transgress up to 5 different transgressions of the Torah and get lots of Malkut. That's what Rava said. And now the Gemara has been trying a game of numbers of why is it not 6? Why only 5 sets? And the Gemara has asked numerous questions. We're going to discuss the 4th of them right now, the one that finally makes the Gemara cave to the question. But the Ma'amar of Rava was Amar Rava Zar Shachal Min Haolah Lifnei Zrika Chutz Lachoma Rabbi Shimon Lo Kechamish. According to Rabbi Shimon's fantastic and ingenious drasha of that pasuk, Lo tuchal le'echol b'sharecha ma'asar degarcha v'tiroshcha v'yisarecha v'korosa. The whole drasha that we had, Rabbi Shimon held that each one of these things is a lav from the Torah, and therefore eating korban olah, of course, is an isur. If you are a zar, a non-kohen, is an additional isur. If you're eating it before zrika, is an additional isur. If you're eating it chutz l'mekomo, is an additional isur. All of these things are separate isurim lavim of the Torah, and therefore you don't just get 1 set of Malkut, you get 5 sets of Malkut, the Gemara says. Now Gemara had different questions on it, the Gemara answered them, and now the Gemara asks the following final question. Why don't we give him a 6th, an additional set of Malkut, like what we learned in the name of Rabbi Eliezer? The Tanya, we learned in Braita. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Kol shehu bechalil tiyeh. It says, Kol korban kohen, minchat kohen, kalil tiyeh, lo te'achel. That's what the pasuk says. Any korban minchat that the kohen brings, kalil tiyeh, lo te'achel. Well, when me and you bring it, kohen eats it. When kohen brings it, who eats it? Kalil tiyeh, lo te'achel. You don't eat it. So from this we darshan that when you have anything that is kalil tiyeh, whenever something has to be burnt completely for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is liten lo ta'aseh al achilato. You cannot eat it. Well, kalil tiyeh lo ta'achel. When it's kalil, lo te'achel. Well, you told me kalil tiyeh, right? You told me that the entire thing has to be burnt. When you say lo te'achel, it's coming to give you a lo ta'aseh, lo te'achel, right? It's a don't do on what? On anything that's kalil tiyeh. Anything that has to be fully burnt to Hashem. You know what's the ultimate classic example of kalil, of something that is burnt completely? Korban olah. So says the Gemara, I finally found explicit drasha from Rabbi Eliezer that anything that's kalil, aka korban olah, even though that olah is not meant to be eaten, still the Torah puts an explicit thing on it of lo te'achel. So says the Gemara, liten lo ta'aseh al achilato, is coming to add lo ta'aseh, another lav on eating of this korban. And the Gemara finally gives into this. In achinami, it's correct. He really does get 6 sets of malkut. So why did Rava say in the name of Rabbi Shimon that you get 5 only? He didn't mean you get 5 only. Rava was saying, look at the drasha of Rabbi Shimon from that one pasuk. One pasuk, and based on the drasha that he had in that one pasuk, you get 5 sets of malkut. And achinami, from this pasuk, you get an additional lo ta'aseh, which comes with its own sets of malkut. Fine, says the Gemara. The Rava mehai kra kamar. The Rava was only saying from that one pasuk that we learned, which explicitly mentions 5 different items according to the understanding of Rabbi Shimon. Now the Gemara says, Amar Rav Gidel, Amar Rav. Rav Gidel said in the name of Rav, Kohen she'achal me'hatat ve'asham lifnei zerika. Now, a Kohen gets to eat parts of chatat, korban chatat, parts of korban asham. We gave already examples of when a person brings korban chatat, when you transgress something that the mezid, deliberate transgression deserves karet. The regular transgression, you get korban chatat. And asham is a little different, as we explained. Says the Gemara, if a Kohen eats it a little prematurely, how so? When you bring a korban chatat, korban asham, it has processes that has to be done in the Beit HaMikdash. You have to bring it. There's a whole process with the Baalim, and then you have shchita, which usually the Kohen does. Then you have Kabbalat Dam and Zrika, which definitely the Kohen has to do. And the Zrika, when they bring the blood of this korban and they put it on Mizbeach, that is considered kapara. That is what accomplishes the kapara for this korban. So therefore, the Kohen is not allowed to eat any part of this korban until the kapara has been accomplished. If he haven't achieved kapara, it's asur for him to eat it. How do I know? From the pasuk. Says the Gemara. But now he says something very interesting. He says, if you are a Kohen and you ate this before Zrikat Tamim, you get lashes. Now, in a moment, we'll see that that's a massive, massive chidush. Even though that you're not allowed to do it, you can't say really that you get lashes. But he says you do. So let's see how he says it. Loke, he gets lashes. My tama, why? The Amar Kra, because the pasuk says, pay attention to this pasuk, Rabotai. Ve'achelu otam asher kupar bahem. The Kohanim will eat the bsar, the meat of korban chatat and korban asham, but only asher kupar bahem, that already has been achieved kapara. Kupar is a language of, it's a past tense, which means already you have achieved kapara. Le'achar kapara, in, only after kapara, you could, lifnei kapara, lo. Before the kapara has been achieved, which means before you spill the blood, you put the blood on the mizbeach, no. And says the Gemara, because he holds, lav haba'a miklal aseh lavhu. A don't do that you learn from a do, a negative mitzvah that's learned from a positive mitzvah by association, is still considered a lo ta'aseh. Now, we don't pass it like that, as we'll see in just a moment, but let's explain this. What does the pasuk say? Ve'achlu otam. The Kohanim should eat it after Zerikat Tamim. What does that mean? How do you say, what's another way of saying it? You can't eat it before Zerikat Damim. But the Torah never said you can't eat it. You could have said an Isur. You could have said don't eat it before Zerikat. It doesn't. So eat it after Zerikat Damim. So it's mentioned as a positive mitzvah of eating it after Zerikat Damim. We deduce from it, we learn from it, a lo ta'aseh of a don't do it before Zerikat Damim. There's across Shas, and this is the place for it. There is a machloka. What exactly is the level of transgression when you do something the Torah has told you not to do, but it has never said don't do it. It has told it to you by association like this. It says do this, and you learn don't do that. For instance, what's a good example? I'll use the example that the Gemara gives, right? The Torah says, these are the animals you can eat, right? Any animal that has the two kosher signs of having fully split hooves, and also it chooses cod. You learn from that what? Well, the other ones you can't eat. That is a mitzvat aseh, not a lot aseh. If you say that a mitzvah that is learned from a mitzvat aseh carries the din of mitzvat aseh. So the Gemara here is suggesting, says no. Even a mitzvah, a don't do, that you learn from a positive mitzvah, it's considered like a regular love. Like a regular don't do. And therefore you get lashes on it. We only get lashes on don't do's, on lo ta'aseh. Right? So here it's don't do, but it's not said explicitly. So says the Gemara, doesn't matter. He holds that you get lashes even on a don't do that's by association. The Gemara says, no, you can't say that. Here, let's read the Gemara together. Mativ Rava, Rava asked a strong question. The example we just gave. The Torah says any animal that has split hooves, ושוסעת שסע שתי פרסות, מעלת גרה בבהמה אותה תאכלו. Given that's also an animal that chews its cud, אותה תאכלו, that you can eat. Right? So from that, we learn, אותה תאכלו, that you can eat, ואין בהמה אחרת תאכלו, and no other animal you can eat. Right? So is that mitzvat aseh or lo ta'aseh? What is it? According to what the Gemara just said, that's a lo ta'aseh. Right? Because we learned that the other ones you can't eat, and that, according to what the Gemara just said, it's a lo ta'aseh already. Can I get lashes on it? Oh yeah, of course, right? According to what the Gemara said. The Gemara says, if you're correct that this is considered a lo ta'aseh, why in the world does the pasuk have to also put a direct lo ta'aseh on it? The pasuk says, etze lo tochelu. The other ones don't eat. The pasuk gives examples of the three animals, well, four animals that don't have those simanim. They have one, but not the other one, right? The hyrack, or arnevet, however you translate, gamal, chazir, right? You have those animals that have one of the two simanim, like chazir has split hooves, but doesn't chew its cud. A camel chews its cud, but it doesn't have split hooves. And the Torah says, lo tochelu. This you cannot eat. Why do you have to put? You already told me lo tochelu. So says the Gemara, from here you see, and this is how we paskin, Rabotai, that any time that the Torah teaches us not to do something, but teaches it to us in a positive format. It says do this, and we by ourselves learn, when he says do this, means don't do that. That is mitzvat aseh. That carries all the halachot of mitzvat aseh, right? So therefore, back to our original case that we just said, if a kohen eats from the flesh of chatat and asham before zerikat damim, before you spill the blood, you put the blood on the mizbeach, does he get lashes? No. Because how do we know that the kohen can't eat it before? Well, it says, after you put the blood, you could eat it. It's a positive mitzvah. From that, you learn that before you can't. So you don't get lashes. So therefore, we just completely ruined the drasha that the Gemara started from Rab Gidel in the name of Rav. right? Because Rav Gidel, in the name of Rav, said that a Kohen that eats from Chatat and Asham before Zerikat Tamim gets lashes. The Gemara says, no, you can't say that then. Ela itmar hachitmar. You know, you misquoted Rav Gidel in the name of Rav. You know what actually was said is like this. Amar Rav Gidel, Amar Rav. Rav Gidel said in the name of Rav, Zar, not a Kohen. We're speaking about a regular Jew, a non-Kohen Jew. Zar she'achal mechatat ve'asham. If he eats korban chatat ve'asham lifnei zerika, before the blood is put on the mizbeach, patur. He is patur. He doesn't get. That's why. Why not? So he's eating this korban. He's not supposed to be eating it. He's a zar, right? So why is he patur? Says the Gemara, my tama. Why would he be off the hook? The Amar Kra, because the pasuk says, "Ve'achelu otam asher kupar bahem." The Kohanim should eat it after Zerikat Tamim, after the blood's put on the mizbeach. Kol echad karinan be ve'achelu otam. Any place that the Kohanim have the isur, which means it's beforehand. It said the Torah says they should eat it after Zerikat Tamim. So they should eat it, not the Jews, but when? After Zerikat Tamim. So if I, as a regular non-Kohen, eat it before Zerikat Tamim, it's not included in this pasuk. How do you know that I'm not allowed to eat it? From this pasuk, that the Kohen should eat it.
Because it tells you who should.
Which means I can't eat it. But that pasuk is talking about after it became a proper korban and achieved kapara by putting the blood on the mizbeach. So therefore, if I prematurely took a bite of this before the blood is on the mizbeach, I'm not included in this pasuk. I did a horrible thing, but I'm off the hook because it's not included in this pasuk. Says the Gemara, Vezar lo yochal kodesh. It's only said when it's applicable to the Kohanim, ve'achlu otam asher kupar bahem karinan be ve'zar lo yochal kodesh. That's when we have a zar, a non-Kohen, which is not allowed to eat it. Ve'chol hecha de lo karinan be ve'achlu otam asher kupar bahem. Any place that this is not applicable, which means you can say ve'achlu otam asher kupar bahem, lo karinan be ve'zar lo yochal. Even a non-Kohen that eats it will be off the hook. Fine. Says the Gemara, a new thing. Amar Rabbi Elazar Amar Rav Hoshaya. Rabbi Elazar said in the name of Rav Hoshaya. We learned, let's go back. This is going back now to our original thing of the Mishnah that we started. What did we say in the Mishnah? That Bikurim, when is it asur for the Kohen to eat it? When is it mutar? You have to bring the Jew has to bring it to the Bet HaMikdash, and the Mishnah said before Kriyat HaParasha, before you read the parasha of Arami Oved Avi, if you eat it, then you get lashes. In other words, let me give a little refresher for our memories. We mentioned in the Mishnah that if you prematurely eat bikurim, even if you're the Kohen who's supposed to eat it, you get lashes. What does it mean prematurely? And we had machloket Rabbi Shimon / Rabbi Akiva versus who? Chachamim. Our Mishnah, which seems to be Rabbi Akiva / Rabbi Shimon, holds that you, the Jew, bringing it in the Bet HaMikdash and putting it in Azara, still not enough. Until you read the parasha, the text of Arami Oved Avi, which is mentioned in Chumash, then the Kohen could eat it. So if the Kohen puts it, you put it in Azara, that's not sufficient yet. Chachamim said, no, we don't need the reading of the parasha of Bikurim. You could eat it. If the Kohen ate it before the reading of the parasha, it's also good. But if you eat it before you put it there in the Azara, that's a problem. That's what completes the process. You put it in the Azara, in Achtol Lifnei Hashem Elokecha, Then if the Kohen had a bite, it's fine. That's the machloket Rabbi Shimon and Chachamim, right? So it says the Gemara, going back to that, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Hoshaya, Bikurim hanacha me'akevet bahen. He holds like Chachamim, Rabbi Elazar. The putting of it in front of Mizbeach, which means in Azara, that is what's ma'akev. But Kriya and ma'akevet bahen. Reading the parasha Bikurim is not a ma'akev. It's not a problem. Says the Gemara, seriously? Umi Amar Rabbi Elazar, Hachi Rabbi Elazar really said this? Rabbi Elazar says something that completely seems to be against this. Veha Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Hoshaya. Rabbi Elazar, in the name of Rabbi Hoshaya himself, said, Hifrish Bikurim, if you separated your Bikurim, Kodem lechag, before Chag HaSukkot, ve'avar alein HaChag, and then you didn't get the chance to bring it to Bet HaMikdash until Chag HaSukkot passed, Yirakvu, you can no longer bring it. You have to let it rot away. Right? So let me give a little preface to this because this is essential. When can you bring Bikurim? Can you bring Bikurim anytime? Can you put your fruits in the refrigerator and bring it anytime you want? No. The time of Bikurim, it says, V'samachta lifnei Hashem Elokecha, and that's from Shavuot until Chanukah, really until Sukkot, but until Chanukah. Now, why is a difference, well, why is Sukkot a thing? Now, because it says, "V'samachta lifnei Hashem Elokecha." You have to be sameach, and from Shavuot until Sukkot is zman simcha. Therefore, a person that brings their bikurim from Shavuot until Sukkot, you bring it, and you also read the parasha of bikurim, of Arami Oved Avi. If you bring it after Sukkot, you no longer could read the parasha of Mikra Bikurim. But you still could bring it without reading the parasha until when? Hanukkah. Why? Because it says, from your sadeh, and that means until the fruits are still available in the field, you could bring bikurim. But after Hanukkah, everything is gone already. So even if you kept it in a silo, you kept it in the fridge, it doesn't matter. You still cannot bring it anymore to Beit HaMikdash. So that's the basics of halachot of when you can bring bikurim and read, and when you can't bring and read. So says the Gemara, Rabbi Elazar said in the name of Rav Hoshaya, if you separated your bikurim, you're excited to bring it to Beit HaMikdash, and you separated them from before Chag HaSukkot, then if the Chag passed and you didn't bring it, you no longer could bring this. No longer could bring it. You have to let it rot away. Can't eat it anymore. Why? What's the problem? It seems, says the Gemara, it seems that Rabbi Elazar holds that if I cannot read the Mikra Bikurim, the whole thing is invalidated. So you see, reading of the parasha Bikurim is very essential. If I can't read it because Sukkot passed and I can't read it anymore, you cannot even bring this as Bikurim. You gotta let it rot away. If reading of Parashat Mikra Bikurim was not so essential, why rot away? Bring it afterwards. You still have 2-3 months until Chanukah you have. So go. Why do you have to rot it away? So must be, says the Gemara, because it is essential to read the parasha. So you're telling me Rabbi Elazar holds just putting it in front of Azara is a criteria. But Rabbi Elazar himself said that you have to let it rot away. So it seems like, no, Kriya also is essential. So it's a stira, it's a contradiction between the same mandamar of Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Hoshaya. So says the Gemara, my love mishum delo matzi lemikri. Is it not because you can't read it anymore after Sukkot? You cannot read Mikra Bikurim. Says the Gemara, ve'isal kadatach kriya en me'akevet bahen. Amai rakvu. If you say that Rabbi Elazar holds that Mikra Bikurim, reading of the parasha of Mikra Bikurim, is not ma'akev, you just have to put it in front of the Mizbeach in Azara, then why should it rot away? So you have a stira. Gemara says, no. Ked Rabbi Zera. The answer is like Rabbi Zera said. Now, Rabotai, what we're going to say in the next minute is something you need in almost every Masechta in Shas. So learn this well. Says Ta'ama Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Zera said, Kol hara'ui lebila en bila ma'akivet bo. This is it's going to be used with this sentence, this wording, even though that it's referring to a very specific case. Let me explain the case. When you bring menachot, right, it has to be balul. It has to be kneaded. When you have oil and flour, it says it has to be balul. Now, when you have a very large amount of flour, you cannot really knead it at once, right? So if you have up to an isaron of flour and 1 log of shemen, for a short time that we have, I'm not going to go into the measurements and translate them. Right, we have isaron and a log of shemen. That is the maximum amount that you could do belila. So says the Gemara, when you have an amount that could be kneaded together with no problems, you don't have to even knead it. You could just put it on, not mix them, and bring it like that as korban mincha. Good. But if you have something that's bigger than that, then bila ma'akivet bo. Then you have to actually do a blila, right? Anything that could be easily done, it doesn't have to even be. But if it can't be, then it's a problem. You can't say, well, you don't have to knead it anyways, so why is it a problem? No. If it could be, then it doesn't have to be. But if it even can't be, then it's not kasher. So here is the same thing, says Rabbi Zera. Here is the same exact thing. If you separate before Sukkot, means now this thing could be brought and it could be read. So if it could be read right now, I bring it to the Beit HaMikdash, you don't even have to read it. Right? Because it's the time right now before Sukkot that it could be read, the Parasha Mikra Bikurim. So therefore, as long as I bring this before Sukkot, it was when it was separated before Sukkot, as long as I bring it before Sukkot, I don't even have to read the Mikra Bikurim for it to be kasher. I put it in front of Azara, it's kasher. But if you bring it after time, meaning you separated it before Sukkot, so this is a type of bikurim that's simcha v'samachta lifnei Hashem Elokecha. It has to be brought before Sukkot that you could still read the parasha Mikra Bikurim. Therefore, if you waited until after Sukkot, that you no longer could read it because not Zman Simcha, the whole thing is pasul. If you can read it, you don't need to for it to be kasher. But if you already passed the time that you can't even read it, then you cannot bring this as bikurim. It is pasul. You have to let it rot away. So therefore, says the Gemara, don't you tell me that this is going to be a problem that the Kohen ate it before Mikra Bikurim. It's kasher. He said he has to be yirakevu. That's a matter of time. So long as you bring it before Sukkot, you're good to go without reading. Meaning it's not pasul without reading. But if you waited until after Sukkot, then bila ma'akevet bo, you can't do it. That would be the end of this discussion in the Gemara. Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll continue this in the days to come.